What was the moment that you realized that someone was obsessed with you in an unhealthy way? What tipped you off? Starting off, let me preface this. I've never been a big social media user. It's personal, too intrusive. I was bartending at a local hole in the wall and I had a regular nice and flirty typical bartender/customer stuff. One day he says to me, "You were at John's house Sunday morning. You guys a thing?" I asked him how he knew I was there and he said he saw my car. And I was a little taken aback. But I was parked on the main road and my car was fairly distinctive, so I didn't think much of it. A couple weeks later, he'd made a joke that I was never home because my car was always gone when he passed by. That made the hair on my neck stand up. But again, I don't exactly live off the beaten path, so okay. When I really knew that it was more than casual observations, that was whenever he started complimenting me on different outfits and hairstyles I wore on my days off or prior to my shift. He'd also make comments about receiving packages or coming home with after shopping. You should find someone who would carry those groceries into the house for you. I'd never make you carry the bags in the house after all that shopping you did on Saturday. It was creepy. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched for a long time. Number 2. My husband was deployed in Afghanistan, so I had to go to church alone. One week, an older man, maybe 65, approached and said, "Can I sit here?" I said sure. We had a bit of a conversation, and he said, "My wife died a few weeks ago, and I was just praying this morning for God to send an angel I could sit with at church today." He seemed like a sweetheart. I felt bad for him. He sat next to me for a few weeks in a row. It didn't bother me too much. I brought him some homemade jam. He told me about how his son was also deployed. I mentioned that he should try getting into a small church group, and that it would be a great company for him. I set him up with one of the best. He said he wasn't sure how to get to the venue. If he gave me his number, I could tell him where the place was. I was confused. I said sure. Well, once I texted him the directions, I didn't think he ever went to the group. But he had my phone number. He started calling 8+ times a day, saying hello beautiful, and begging me to meet with him at Waffle House. For the remainder of my husband's 6-month deployment, I did not go to church. I was really worried about running into that guy. I blocked his number and luckily, I've never seen him again. Months after my husband got back, I told him what happened, and of course, he was livid. Number 3. I broke up with a physically abusive boyfriend, and at the time, I worked about a 25-minute drive from where I lived. I always drove the same road home. My schedule never changed, and I began seeing his car and occasionally his friends' cars along my drive. I always parked off from the road a little and around some seriously sharp corners. At first, I didn't think anything of it until it began happening at night. I do inventory every Tuesday night and be at work until 10 p.m. This was my only full night shift. This went on for about a month until I started switching my routes to and from work because I was getting creeped out. Easter ended up rolling around and I, again, had to stay late to help my coworkers change the signage. I worked at Subway. It was getting close to 9 p.m. and the work phone began ringing off the hook. It was my ex. My coworker, who knew what was going on, just muted the phone and we continued doing what we needed to do. Shortly after, we saw my ex standing outside, in the middle of the road, staring into the restaurant. I hid behind the counter as soon as I could. My coworker ended up telling me when he left. Got calmed down until we got to my car to find out he broke into my car and left a bunch of weed in a threatening note. I bought a new car the next week, fully equipped with a very loud alarm. Number 4. I had 2 instances when I was younger. One was the first boyfriend I ever had. 8th grade summer, going into my first year of high school. We broke up after homecoming because of some very stupid young person drama, and he went absolutely psycho after that. Constant texts and phone calls, getting his friends to talk to me / harass me, etc. You know, the typical stuff. Culminated in him carving my name into his arm. It all culminated in him carving his name into his arm. He died of a heroin overdose in like 2016, I want to say. The second time was more of a slow burn. This was back in the day when AIM / MSN was the shit. This guy I kind of knew from high school added me on AIM. He was a senior, actually a super senior, which makes it worse. When I was a freshman, he had been dating a fellow freshman classmate of mine for a while. We had similar music tastes and talked about the band Brand New a lot. We talked for a long time, actually, just platonically, or so I thought. Instant messaging was kind of a thing back in the day, and I talked to a lot of people. I didn't have any cause for concern with him. He was someone that used to go to my high school, and we liked the same band. When the album The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me by Brand New came out, they went on tour and finally came to Seattle, and he was like, "Dude, let's go. I'll get you a ticket." And I was like, "You don't have to pay for me. I'll pay for my own." But he insisted, so I was like, whatever. I buy my friends stuff all the time. That's fine. Keep in mind that he and that girl were long past broken up. And also keep in mind that he was about 21 to 22 at this point, and I had just turned 16. So he also insists on driving. I was like, score. I'm saving on gas, lol. The whole time he's kind of touching me and a lot and acting really excited and whatever. And I'm just getting a vibe. Sorry if that's vague, but it was a vague vibe. The concert was fine, kind of uneventful and kind of a letdown because the band really acted like that was the last place on earth that they wanted to be. And he just would not stop trying to hold my hand, grab my hips, etc., etc. Just way too handsy. And then I realized I had to drive home with him from fucking Seattle, like 30-ish plus minutes away. The car ride home he was talking a lot and really excited, and whatever, and it all came out how he felt about me. Once again, he's like in his early 20s and I'm barely 16, and I'm trapped in a car. When he drops me off, he makes a move, and I reject it. I tell him thank you for everything, but I don't feel that way. He gets pissed. He blew up on me. On AIM. Typical nice guy TM shit about how he bought my ticket and drove me to Seattle in all the years, like 2, lol, we'd been talking, and me supposedly leading him on all this time. Apparently he and his ex actually used to fight about me because I guess she was obsessed with me, even back then. It was super creepy. I was sad because I felt like I did something wrong. And because I felt like I lost what I thought was a friend. I have no idea where he is or what he's doing now. I'm about to turn 30, so all this was a long time ago now. And I've had other creepy experiences in my life, but I think those early ones really form a big impression. Number 5. I was chatting with a gal online through a dating site. She was nice enough and we were having good conversations, but had not yet even began speaking on the phone. It turns out a friend of hers was friends with one of my friends. Small world. I'm at home one day, puttering around, and I hear a knock at my door. I look out the window and see a car I don't recognize. My hink meter starts pinging, so I pull a butcher knife, brace my foot so the door can only be opened a bit, and crack the door. She's standing there and tells me she got my address from a friend and asking me to come in. I was weirded out and declined. She got upset, started crying and telling me how this was supposed to be a pleasant surprise. I tried to send her on her way gently and she got pissed and stormed off and drove away. I thought that was it. Then she starts emailing me, saying she loves me, then starts calling me. My idiot friend gave her my number, and leaving gifts at my door that would be there in the morning. I lived in Mesa, Arizona. She was in Tucson, about an hour away. I eventually had to threaten her with a restraining order. My friend had talked to hers about what was going on. She said, "Oh yeah, she's nuts. She's done this before." I felt a lot better when I left the state. Number 6. Had a friend that I used to talk to about her crushes and junk. This is our constant conversation topic. But I didn't mind at first. It was when she started getting kind of creepy that I started backing away. She didn't tell me about how she absolutely loved this boy. He's so perfect and so cute. She'd go on and on and on. Then one day, she messages me, super distraught because a guy rejected her confession. When I asked about it, she explained that she never actually. I spoke to him before. When I asked about it, she explained that she had never actually spoke to him before. The poor guy had no idea who she even was. He tried to let her down, super cordial, but she was destroyed, acted like she got dumped out of a relationship. But then, after all of this, she'd just move on to the next dude like it was nothing. She'd like a new dude every month or so, and rinse and repeat, the same process. Even when I'd advise her to take time to just get to know someone before going too crazy, sometimes she'd have 3 dudes she liked all at the same time. Oh, and also, she used to get me to draw her with these guys. I can remember feeling weird about it, like I was feeding some sort of delusion, so I stopped. really tiring after so long, so I kind of just drifted away. TLDR, old friend used to confess her intense love to poor dudes who had no idea who she was, not because they ignored her, just because they were never introduced. Number 7. I had a friend. She was a bit eccentric. We were really close until she started going totally off the edge. Hid my bicycle, stood outside my house screaming obscenities. I told everyone we had a sexual relationship. Belittled my abusive past, screaming right into my face, tried to stab our common friend twice. The thing that pulled alarms in my head was when I told her I'd be heading home from my boyfriend soon, and she can come for a visit in a couple of hours if she wants. Got home in under an hour. She was waiting near my apartment building and started accusing me of lying to her. There was absolutely no telling her that I wanted to settle a little, take a shower, and eat something. I did not say I'd be home in 2 hours. I managed to cut her out of my life. A few years later, she started blowing up my mother's phone. One can't find my number anywhere. Demanding for her to give my number, explaining all this pretty lunatic nonsense. But how she needed me because I'm one of her apostles and she needs me to start her own religion. Because she is his son, another of Adam and Eve. And this was not even the craziest shit. Quite confidential, seeing that the few years before this, she was super paranoid about my mother since she worked for the military. And yes, previously this girl had a delusion that she is reincarnated Jesus. After this, I've heard through friends that I'm Peter, Venus, and the latest, probably, was that I'm a whore. So yeah, that was the point where I was more than sure that she was obsessed with me. Number 8. I just got out of a 10-year relationship that turned sour, and I was pretty protective of my personal time and space. One of the guys in my larger friend group wanted to date me. I told him we could hang out from time to time, but I wasn't looking for a relationship. And specifically, I wasn't looking for a relationship with him. We got along okay, but I didn't love him, and I wasn't in love with him. I told him that. Pretty sure he was dominating all my time. If I went out with girls, he would be there. If I went to shows or galleries or carnivals or other family events where he was, he turned up on my doorstep constantly. And if I faked not being home, he would leave notes and gifts on my car. Eventually, I had to tell him that we were in a relationship, that we weren't in a relationship. Marriage wasn't in the cards. And he could stop thinking up baby names. I started sneaking around just to see my friends. At some point, he had to move back home, out of state, to take care of a family issue. And I got blessed with peace from him. He was gone for about 8 months, during which I insisted on very limited phone contact. When he got back, he found out that I had traveled with a male coworker on a business trip, and he flipped all the way out. The email was 4 nasty pages long, accusing me of being a gold digger, a whore, a cock tease, and that I had led him on. That he had been about to marry me and I destroyed his whole life, that I had ruined everything. I figured the only way out of this for me was to be an absolute, total, horrible cunt to him. Which I was in spades, making sure he knew that I would destroy with fire everything he had ever loved if he ever even tried to make contact with me again.